longs for the elephant grove. If a man becomes fat and a great eater, if he is sleepy and rolls himself about, that fool, like a hog fed on wash, is born again and again. This mind of mine went formerly wandering about as it liked, as it listed, as it pleased, but I shall now hold it in thoroughly, as the rider who holds the hook holds in the furious elephant. Be not thoughtless, watch your thoughts, draw yourself out of the evil way, like an elephant sunk in mud. If a man find a prudent companion who walks with him, is wise, and lives soberly, let him walk with him, overcoming all dangers, having but considerate. If a man find no prudent companion who walks with him, is wise, and lives soberly, let him walk alone, like a king who has left his conquered country behind, like an elephant in the forest. It is better to live alone. There is no companionship with a fool. Let a man walk alone, let him commit no sin, with few wishes, like an elephant in the forest. If an occasion arises, friends are pleasant. Enjoyment is pleasant, whatever be the cause. A good work is pleasant in the hour of death. The giving up of all grief is pleasant. Pleasant in the world is the state of a mother, pleasant the state of a father, pleasant the state of a samana, pleasant the state of a brahmana. Pleasant is virtue lasting to old age. Pleasant is a faith firmly rooted. Pleasant is attainment of intelligence. Pleasant is avoiding of sins. Chapter 24. Thirst. The thirst of a thoughtless man grows like a creeper. He runs from life to life, like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest. Whomsoever this fierce thirst overcomes, full of poison, in this world his sufferings will increase like the abounding banana grass. He who overcomes this fierce thirst, difficult to be conquered in this world, sufferings fall off from him, like water drops from a lotus leaf. This salutary word I tell you, do ye, as many as are here assembled, dig up the root of thirst, as he who wants the sweet-scented wisteria root must dig up the banana grass, that Mara the tempter may not crush you again and again, as the stream crushes the reeds. As a tree, even though it has been cut down, is firm so long as its root is safe, and grows again. Thus, unless the feeders of thirst are destroyed, the pain of life will return again and again. He whose thirst, running towards pleasure, is exceeding strong in the 36 channels, the waves will carry away that misguided man, vis-a-vis his desires which are set on passion. The channels run everywhere. The creeper of passion stands sprouting. If you see the creeper springing up, cut its roots by means of knowledge. A creature's pleasures are extravagant and luxurious. Sunk in lust and looking for pleasure, men undergo, again and again, birth and decay. Men, driven on by thirst, run about like a snared hare, held in fetters and bonds. They undergo pain for a long time, again and again. Men driven on by thirst run about like a snared hare. Let, therefore, the mendicant drive out thirst, by striving after passionlessness for himself. He who, having got rid of the forest of lust after having reached nirvana, gives himself over to the forest life and lust, and who, when removed from the forest, runs to the forest. Look at that man. Though free, he runs into bondage. Wise people do not call that a strong fetter which is made of iron, wood, or hemp. Far stronger is the care for precious stones and rings, for sons and a wife. That fetter wise people call strong, which drags down, yields, but is difficult to undo. After having cut this at last, people leave the world, free from cares, and leaving desires and pleasures behind. Those who are slaves to passions run down with the stream of desires, as a spider runs down the web which he has made himself. When they have cut this at last, wise people leave the world free from cares, leaving all affection behind. Give up what is before, give up what is behind, give up what is in the middle. When thou goest to the other shore of existence, if thy mind is altogether free, thou wilt not again enter into birth and decay. If a man is tossed about by doubts, full of strong passions, and yearning only for what is delightful, his thirst will grow more and more, and he will indeed make his fetters strong. If a man delights in quieting doubts, and always reflecting, dwells on what is not delightful, the impurity of the body, he certainly will remove, nay, he will cut the fetter of Mara. He who has reached the consummation, who does not tremble, who is without thirst and without sin, he has broken all the thorns of life. This will be his last body. He who is without thirst and without affection, who understands the words and their interpretation, who knows the order of letters, those which are before and which are after, He has received his last body. He is called the Great Sage, the Great Man. I have conquered all. I know all. In all conditions of life, I am free from taint. I have left all, and through the destruction of thirst, I am free. Having learned myself, whom shall I teach? The gift of law exceeds all gifts. The sweetness of law exceeds all sweetness. The delight in the law exceeds all delights. The extinction of thirst overcomes all pain. Pleasures destroy the foolish, if they look not for the other shore. The foolish, by his thirst for pleasures, destroys himself, as if he were his own enemy. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by passion. Therefore a gift bestowed on the passionless brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by hatred. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who do not hate brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by vanity. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who are free from vanity brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by lust. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who are free from lust brings great reward. Chapter 25. The Bhikshu, Mendicant. Restraint in the eye is good. Good is restraint in the ear. In the nose restraint is good. Good is restraint in the tongue. In the body restraint is good. Good is restraint in speech. In thought restraint is good. Good is restraint in all things. A bhikshu, restrained in all things, is freed from all pain. He who controls his hand, he who controls his feet, he who controls his speech, he who is well controlled, he who delights inwardly, who is collected, who is solitary and content, him they call bhikshu. The bhikshu who controls his mouth, who speaks wisely and calmly, who teaches the meaning and the law, his word is sweet. He who dwells in the law, delights in the law, meditates on the law, follows the law. That bhikshu will never fall away from the true law. Let him not despise what he has received, nor ever envy others. A mendicant who envies others does not obtain peace of mind. A bhikshu who, though he receives little, does not despise what he has received. Even the gods will praise him, if his life is pure, and if he is not slothful. He who never identifies himself with name and form, and does not grieve over what is no more, he is indeed called the bhikshu. The bhikshu who acts with kindness, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place, nirvana, cessation of natural desires, and happiness. O bhikshu, empty this boat. If emptied, it will go quickly. Having cut off passion and hatred, thou wilt go to nirvana. Cut off the five senses. Leave the five. Rise above the five. A bhikshu who has escaped from the five fetters, he is called Okatina, safe from the flood. Meditate, O bhikshu, and be not heedless. Do not direct thy thought to what gives pleasure, that thou mayest not, for thy heedlessness, have to swallow the iron bowl in hell, and that thou mayest not cry out when burning, this is pain. Without knowledge there is no meditation. Without meditation there is no knowledge. He who has knowledge and meditation is near unto nirvana. A bhikshu who has entered his empty house, and whose mind is tranquil, feels a more than human delight when he sees the law clearly. As soon as he has considered the origin and destruction of the elements of the body, he finds happiness and joy which belong to those who know the immortal nirvana. And this is the beginning here for a wise bhikshu. Watchfulness over the senses, contentedness, restraint under the law, keep noble friends whose life is pure and who are not slothful. Let him live in charity. Let him be perfect in his duties. Then, in the fullness of the light, he will make an end of suffering. As the Vasika plant sheds its withered flowers, men should shed passion and hatred, O ye bhikshus. The bhikshu whose body and tongue and mind are quieted, who is collected and has rejected the baits of the world, he is called quiet. Rouse thyself by thyself. Examine thyself by thyself. Thus, self-protected and attentive, wilt thou live happily, O bhikshu. For self is the lord of self. Self is the refuge of self. Therefore curb thyself, as the merchant curbs a good horse. The bhikshu, full of delight, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place, nirvana, cessation of natural desires and happiness. He who, even as a young bhikshu, applies himself to the doctrine of Buddha, brightens up this world, like the moon when free from clouds. Chapter 26. The Brahmana, Arhat. Stop the stream valiantly, drive Drive away the desires, O Brahmana. When you have understood the destruction of all that was made, you will understand that which was not made. If the Brahmana has reached the other shore in both laws, in restraint and contemplation, all bonds vanish from him who has attained knowledge. He for whom there is neither this shore nor that shore, nor both, him, the fearless and unshackled, I call indeed a Brahmana. He who is thoughtful, blameless, settled, dutiful, without passions, and who has attained the highest end, him I call indeed the Brahmana. The sun is bright by day, the moon shines by night. The warrior is bright in his armor, the Brahmana is bright in his meditation. But Buddha, the awakened, is bright with splendor day and night. Because a man is rid of evil, therefore he is called Brahmana. Because he walks quietly, therefore he is called Samana. Because he has sent away his own impurities, therefore he is called Pravragita, a pilgrim. No one should attack a Brahmana, but no Brahmana, if attacked, should let himself fly at his aggressor. Woe to him who strikes a Brahmana, more woe to him who flies at his aggressor. It advantages a Brahmana not a little if he holds his mind back from the pleasures of life. When all wish to injure has vanished, pain will cease. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who does not offend by body, word, or thought, and is controlled on these 3 points. After a man has once understood the law, as taught by the well-awakened Buddha, let him worship it carefully, as the Brahmana worships the sacrificial fire. A man does not become a Brahmana by his plaited hair, by his family, or by birth. In whom there is truth and righteousness, he is blessed, he is a Brahmana. What is the use of plaited hair, O fool? What of the raiment of goatskins? Within thee there is ravening, but the outside thou makest clean. The man who wears dirty raiments, who is emaciated and covered with veins, who lives alone in the forest and meditates, him I call indeed a Brahmana. I do not call the man a Brahmana because of his origin or of his mother. He is indeed arrogant and he is wealthy, but the poor, who is free from all attachments, him I call indeed a Brahmana. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has cut all fetters, who never trembles, is independent and unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has cut the strap and the thong, the chain with all that pertains to it, who has burst the bar and is awakened. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, though he has committed no offence, endures reproach, bonds and stripes, who has endurance for his force and strength for his army. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who is free from anger, dutiful, virtuous, without appetite, who is subdued and has received his last body. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who does not cling to pleasures, like water on a lotus leaf, like a mustard seed on the point of a needle. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, even though he knows the end of his suffering, has put down his burden and is unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana whose knowledge is deep, who possesses wisdom, who knows the right way and the wrong, and has attained the highest end. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who keeps aloof both from laymen and from mendicants, who frequents no houses and has but few desires. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who finds no fault with other beings, whether feeble or strong, and does not kill nor cause slaughter. Him I call indeed a Brahmana from whom anger and hatred, pride and envy have dropped like a mustard seed from the point of a needle. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who utters true speech, instructive and free from harshness, so that he offend no one. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who takes nothing in the world that is not given to him, be it long or short, small or large, good or bad. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who fosters no desires for this world or for the next, has no inclinations, and is unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has no interests, and when he has understood the truth, does not say, how, and who has reached the depth of the immortal. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who in this world is above good and evil, above the bondage of both, free from grief from sin and from impurity. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who is bright like the moon, pure, serene, undisturbed, and in whom all gaiety is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has traversed this miry road, the impassable world and its vanity, who has gone through and reached the other shore, and is thoughtful, guileless, free from doubts, free from attachment, and content. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who in this world, leaving all desires, travels about without a home, and in whom all concupiscence is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, leaving all longings, travels about without a home, and in whom all covetousness is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who, after leaving all bondage to men, has risen above all bondage to the gods, and is free from all and every bondage. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who has left what gives pleasure and what gives pain, who is calm and free from all germs of renewed life, the hero who has conquered all the worlds. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who knows the destruction and the return of beings everywhere, who is free from bondage, welfaring and awakened. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, whose path the gods do not know, nor spirits, nor men, whose passions are extinct, and who is an Arhat, venerable. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who calls nothing his own, whether it be before, behind, or between, who is poor and free from the love of the world. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, the manly, the noble, the hero, the great sage, the conqueror, the impassible, the accomplished, the awakened. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who knows his former abodes, who sees heaven and hell, has reached the end of births, is perfect in knowledge, a sage, and whose perfections are all perfect.
Everyone wonders if earning a degree will really make a difference. It will at WGU. In fact, in a 2022 Harris poll, 99% of employers said WGU grads meet or exceed expectations. Employers respect WGU degrees. Learn more at WGU.edu.
Family says 28-year-old Chelsea.
Book 3, Chapter 1, of Personal Adornment. Once, when he was visited by a young student of rhetoric whose hair was somewhat too elaborately dressed, and whose attire in general was highly embellished, Epictetus said, "Tell me if you do not think that some dogs are beautiful, and some horses, and so every other creature." "I do," said the young man. "Is not the same true also of men? Some of them are handsome, and some ugly." "Of course." "Do we then, on the same grounds, pronounce each of these creatures in its own kind beautiful, or do we pronounce each beautiful on special grounds? I shall show you what I mean. Since we see that a dog is born to do one thing, and a horse another, and, if you will, a nightingale for something else, in general it would not be unreasonable for one to declare that each of them was beautiful precisely when it achieved supreme excellence in terms of its own nature, and since each has a different nature, each one of them, I think, is beautiful in a different fashion. Is that not so?" He agreed. "Does it not follow, then, that precisely what makes a dog beautiful makes a horse ugly, and precisely what makes a horse beautiful makes a dog ugly, if, that is, their natures are different?" "So it appears." "Yes, for to my way of thinking, what makes a pancratias beautiful does not make a wrestler good, and more than that, makes a runner quite absurd, and the same man who is beautiful for the pentathlon is very ugly for wrestling." "That is so," said he. "What then makes a man beautiful other than just that which makes a dog or a horse beautiful in its kind?" "Just that," said he. "What is it then that makes a dog beautiful?" "The presence of a dog's excellence." "What makes a horse beautiful?" "The presence of a horse's excellence." "What then makes a man beautiful? Is it not the presence of a man's excellence?" "Very well then, young man, do you too, if you wish to be beautiful, labor to achieve this, the excellence that characterizes a man." "And what is that?" "Observe who they are whom you yourself praise, when you praise people dispassionately. Is it the just or the unjust?" "The just." "Is it the temperate or the dissolute?" "The temperate." "And is it the self-controlled or the uncontrolled?" "The self-controlled." In making yourself that kind of person, therefore, rest assured that you will be making yourself beautiful. But so long as you neglect all this, you must needs be ugly, no matter if you employ every artifice to make yourself look beautiful. Beyond that, I know not what more I can say to you, for if I say what I have in mind, I shall hurt your feelings, and you will leave, perhaps never to return. But if I do not say it, consider the sort of thing I shall be doing. Here you are coming to me to get some benefit, and I shall be bestowing no benefit at all. And you are coming to me as to a philosopher, and I shall be saying nothing to you as a philosopher. Besides, is it anything but cruel for me to leave you unreformed? If some time in the future you come to your senses, you will have good reason to blame me. What did Epictetus observe in me, you will say to yourself, that although he saw me in such a condition, and coming to him in so disgraceful a state, he should let me be so, and say never a word to me? Did he so completely despair of me? Was I not young? Was I not ready to listen to reason? And how many other young fellows make any number of mistakes of the same kind in their youth? I am told that once there was a certain Palermo, who from being a very dissolute young man, underwent such an astonishing transformation. Well, suppose he did not think that I should be another Palermo. He could have at least set my hair right. He could have stripped me of my ornaments. He could have made me stop popping my hairs. But although he saw me looking like, what shall I say, he held his peace. As for me, I do not say what it is you look like, but you will say it when you come to yourself and will realize what it is and the kind of people those are who act this way. If you bring this charge against me someday, what shall I be able to say in my own defense? Yes, but suppose I speak and he not obey. And did Laius obey Apollo? Did he not go away and get drunk and say goodbye to the oracle? What then? Did that keep Apollo from telling him the truth? Whereas I do not know whether you will obey me or not, Apollo knew perfectly well that Laius would not obey, and yet he spoke. But why did he speak? And why is he Apollo? Why does he give out oracles? And why has he placed himself in this position, to be a prophet and a fountain of truth, and for the inhabitants of the civilized world to come to him? And why are the words, "Know thyself," carved on the front of his temple, although no one pays attention to them? Did Socrates succeed in prevailing upon all his visitors to keep watch over their own characters? No, not one in 1,000. Nevertheless, once he had been assigned this post, as he himself says, by the ordinance of the deity, he never abandoned it. Nay, what does he say even to his judges? If you acquit me, he says, on these conditions, namely that I no longer engage in my present practices, I will not accept your offer. Neither will I give up my practices, but I will go up to young and old, and, in a word, to everyone that I meet, and put to him the same question that I put now, and beyond all others, I will especially interrogate you, he says, who are my fellow citizens, inasmuch as you are nearer akin to me. Are you so inquisitive, O Socrates, and meddlesome, and why do you care what we are about? Why, what is that you are saying? You are my partner and kinsman, and yet you neglect yourself and provide the state with a bad citizen, and your kin with a bad kinsman, and your neighbours with a bad neighbour. Well, who are you? Here it is a bold thing to say, I am he who must needs take interest in men. For no ordinary ox dares to withstand the lion himself, but if the bull comes up and withstands him, say to the bull if you think fit. But who are you, and what do you care? Man, in every species, nature produces some superior individual, among cattle, dogs, bees, horses. Pray do not say to the superior individual, well then, who are you? Or if you do, it will get a voice from somewhere and reply to you. I am the same sort of thing as red in the mantle. Do not expect me to resemble the rest, and do not blame my nature because it has made me different from the rest. What follows? Am I that kind of person? Impossible. Are you indeed the kind of person to listen to the truth? I would that you were. But nevertheless, since somehow or other I have been condemned to wear a grey beard and a rough cloak, and you are coming to me as to a philosopher, I shall not treat you cruelly, nor as though I despaired of you, but I shall say, young man, whom do you wish to make beautiful? First learn who you are, and then, in the light of that knowledge, adorn yourself. You are a human being, that is, a mortal animal gifted with the ability to use impressions rationally. And what is rationally? In accordance with nature and perfectly. What element of superiority then do you possess? The animal in you? No. Your mortality? No. Your ability to use impressions? No. Your reason is the element of superiority which you possess. Adorn and beautify that. But leave your hair to him who has fashioned it, as he will. Come, what other designations apply to you? Are you a man or a woman? A man. Very well then, adorn a man, not a woman. Woman is born smooth and dainty by nature, and if she is very hairy, she is a prodigy, and is exhibited at Rome among the prodigies. But for a man not to be hairy is the same thing, and if by nature he has no hair, he is a prodigy. But if he cuts it out and plucks it out himself, what shall we make of him? Where shall we exhibit him, and what notice shall we post? I will show you, we say to the audience, a man who wishes to be a woman rather than a man. What a dreadful spectacle. No one but will be amazed at the notice. By Zeus, I fancy that even the men who pluck out their own hairs do what they do without realizing what it means. Man, what reason have you to complain against your nature? Because it brought you into the world as a man? What then? Ought it to have brought all persons into the world as women? And if that had been the case, what good would you be getting of your self-adornment? For whom would you be adorning yourself if all were women? Your paltry body doesn't please you, eh? Make a clean sweep of the whole matter. Eradicate your, what shall I call it, the cause of your hairiness. Make yourself a woman all over, so as not to deceive us, not half man and half woman. Whom do you wish to please? Frail womankind? Please them as a man. Yes, but they like smooth men. Oh, go hang. And if they liked sexual perverts, would you have become such a pervert? Is this your business in life? Is this what you have been born for, that licentious women should take pleasure in you? Shall we make a man like you a citizen of Corinth, and perchance a warden of the city, or superintendent of Ephebi, or general, or superintendent of the games? Well, and when you have married, are you going to pluck out your hairs? For whom and to what end? And when you have begotten boys, are you going to introduce them into the body of citizens as plucked creatures too? A fine citizen and senator and orator. Is this the kind of young men we ought to pray to have born and brought up for us? By the gods, young man, may such not be your fate. But once you have heard these words, go away and say to yourself, it was not Epictetus who said these things to me. Why, how could they have occurred to him? But it was some kindly god or other speaking through him. For it would not have occurred to Epictetus to say these things, because he is not in the habit of speaking to anyone. Come then, let us obey God, and we rest not under his wrath. Nay, but if a raven gives you a sign by his croaking, it is not the raven that gives the sign, but God through the raven. Whereas if he gives you a sign through a human voice, will you pretend that it is the man who is saying these things to you, so that you may remain ignorant of the power of the divinity, that he gives signs to some men in this way and to others in that, but that in the greatest and most sovereign matters he gives his sign through his noblest messenger? What else does the poet mean when he says, since ourselves we did warn him, sending down Hermes the messenger god, the slayer of Argus, neither to murder the husband himself, nor make love to his consort? As Hermes descended to tell Aegisthus that, so now the gods tell you the same thing, sending down Hermes the messenger god, the slayer of Argus, not to distort utterly, nor to take useless pains about that which is already right, but to leave the man a man, and the woman a woman, the beautiful person beautiful as a human being, the ugly ugly as a human being. Because you are not flesh nor hair, but moral purpose. If you get that beautiful, then you will be beautiful. So far, I do not have the courage to tell you that you are ugly, for it looks to me as though you would rather hear anything but that. But observe what Socrates says to Alcibiades, the most handsome and youthfully beautiful of men. Try, then, to be beautiful. What does he tell him? Dress your locks and pluck the hairs out of your legs? God forbid. No, he says, make beautiful your moral purpose, eradicate your worthless opinions. How treat your paltry body, then? As its nature is. This is the concern of another. Leave it to him. What then? Does the body have to be left unclean? God forbid. But the man that you are and were born to be, keep that man clean. The man to be clean as a man, a woman as a woman, a child as a child. No, but let's pluck out also the lion's mane, so that he may not fail to be cleaned up, and the cock's comb, for he too ought to be cleaned up. Clean, yes, but clean as a cock, and the other clean as a lion, and the hunting dog clean as a hunting dog. Chapter 2. The fields of study in which the man who expects to make progress will have to go into training, and then we neglect what is most important. There are 3 fields of study in which the man who is going to be good and excellent must first have been trained. The first has to do with desires and aversions, that he may never fail to get what he desires, nor fall into what he avoids. The second with cases of choice and of refusal, and in general with duty, that he may act in an orderly fashion, upon good reasons, and not carelessly. The third with the avoidance of error and rashness in judgment, and in general about cases of assent. Among these, the most important and especially pressing is that which has to do with the stronger emotions. For a strong emotion does not arise except as desire fails to attain its object, or an aversion falls into what it would avoid. This is the field of study which introduces to us confusions, tumults, misfortunes and calamities, and sorrows, lamentations, envies, and makes us envious and jealous, passions which make it impossible for us even to listen to reason. The second field of study deals with duty, for I ought not to be unfeeling like a statue, but should maintain my relations, both natural and acquired, as a religious man, a son, a brother, a father, a citizen. The third belongs only to those who are already making progress. It has to do with the element of certainty in the matters which have just been mentioned, so that even in dreams or drunkenness or a state of melancholy madness, a man may not be taken unawares by the appearance of an untested sense impression. This, says someone, is beyond us. But philosophers nowadays pass by the first and second fields of study and concentrate upon the third, upon arguments which involve equivocal premises, which derive syllogisms by the process of interrogation, which involve hypothetical premises and sophisms like the liar. Of course, he says, even when a man is engaged in subjects of this kind, he has to preserve his freedom from deception. But what kind of man ought to engage in them? Only the one who is already good and excellent. Do you then fall short in this? Have you already attained perfection in the other subjects? Are you proof against deception in handling small change? You see a pretty wench, do you resist the sense impression? If your neighbour receives an inheritance, do you not feel a twinge of envy? And is security of judgment now the only thing in which you fall short? Wretch, even while you are studying these very topics, you tremble and are worried for fear someone despises you, and you ask whether anybody is saying anything about you. And if someone should come and say, a discussion is arising as to who was the best of the philosophers, someone who was there said that so-and-so was the only real philosopher, immediately your poor little 1-inch soul shoots up a yard high. But if another party to the discussion says, nonsense, it's a waste of time to listen to so-and-so, why, what does he know? He has the rudiments, but nothing else. You are beside yourself. You grow pale, immediately you shout, I'll show him who I am, that I am a great philosopher. Yet we see what a man is by just such conduct. Why do you wish to show it by anything else? Do you not know that Diogenes showed one of the sophists thus, pointing out his middle finger at him, and then, when the man was furious with rage, remarked, that's so-and-so. I pointed him out to you. For a man is not something like a stone or a stick of wood to be pointed out with a finger, but when one shows a man's judgments, then one shows him as a man. Let us take a look at your judgments too. Is it not evident that you set no value on your own moral purpose, but look beyond to the things that lie outside the province of the moral purpose, namely what so-and-so will say, and what impression you will make, whether men will think you a scholar, or that you have read Chrysippus or Antipater? Why, if you have read them, and Archidamus too, you have everything. Why are you any longer worried for fear you will not show us who you are? Do you wish me to tell you what kind of man you have shown us that you are? A person who comes into our presence, mean, hypercritical, quick-tempered, cowardly, fault-finding with everything, blaming everybody, never quiet, vain-glorious. These are the qualities which you have exhibited to us. Go away now and read Archidamus. Then, if a mouse falls down and makes a noise, you are dead with fright. For the same kind of death awaits you that carried off, what was his name? Oh yes, Quinnus. He too was proud of himself because he could understand Archidamus. Wretch, are you not willing to let alone those things that do not concern you? They are appropriate for those who can study them without disturbance of spirit, who have the right to say, I do not yield to anger or sorrow or envy. I am not subject to restraint or to compulsion. What do I yet lack? I enjoy leisure. I have peace of mind. Let us see how we ought to deal with equivocal premises in arguments. Let us see how a person may adopt a hypothesis and yet not be led to an absurd conclusion. These things belong to men of that type. When men are prospering, it is appropriate to light a fire, to take luncheon, and, if you will, even to sing and dance. But when the ship is already sinking, you come up to me and start to hoist the topsails. Chapter 3. What is the subject matter with which the good man has to deal, and what should be the chief object of our training? The subject matter with which the good and excellent man has to deal is his own governing principle. That of a physician and the masseur is the body, of a farmer is his farm, but the function of the good and excellent man is to deal with his impressions in accordance with nature. Now, just as it is the nature of every soul to assent to the true, dissent from the false, and to withhold judgment in a matter of uncertainty, so it is its nature to be moved with desire toward the good, with aversion toward the evil, and feel neutral toward what is neither evil nor good. For just as neither the banker nor the greengrocer may legally refuse the coinage of Caesar, but if you present it, whether he will or no, he must turn over to you what you are purchasing with it, so it is also with the soul. The instant the good appears, it attracts the soul to itself, while the evil repels the soul from itself. A soul will never refuse a clear sense impression of good, any more than a man will refuse the coinage of Caesar. Of this concept of the good hangs every impulse to act both of man and of God. That is why the good is preferred above every form of kinship. My father is nothing to me, but only the good. Are you so hard-hearted? Yes, that is my nature. This is the coinage which God has given me. For that reason, if the good is something different from the noble and the just, then father and brother and country and all relationships simply disappear. But shall I neglect my good so that you may have it? And shall I make way for you? What for? I am your father, but not a good. I am your brother, but not a good. If, however, we define the good as consisting in a right moral purpose, then the mere preservation of the relationships of life becomes a good, and furthermore, he who gives up some of the externals achieves the good. My father is taking away my money, but he is doing you no harm. My brother is going to get the larger part of the farm. Let him have all he wants. That does not help him at all get a part of your modesty, does it? Or of your fidelity, or of your brotherly love. Why, from a possession of this kind, who can eject you? Not even Zeus. Nay, nor did he even wish to. But this matter he put under my control, and he gave it to me even as he had it himself, free from hindrance, compulsion, restraint. When, therefore, different persons have different pieces of coinage, a man offers the coin and gets what is bought by it. A thief has come to the province as proconsul. What coinage does he use? Silver. Offer it and carry away what you wish. An adulterer has come. What coinage does he use? Frail wenches. Take, says one, the coin and sell me the little baggage. Give and buy. Another is interested in boys. Give him the coin and take what you wish. Another is fond of hunting. Give him a fine horse or dog. With sighs and groans he will sell for it what you wish. For another constrains him from within, the one who has established this currency. It is chiefly with this principle in mind that a man must exercise himself. Go out of the house at early dawn, and no matter whom you see or whom you hear, examine him, and then answer as you would to a question. What did you see? A handsome man or a handsome woman? Apply your rule. Is it outside the province of the moral purpose or inside? Outside. Away with it. What did you see? A man in grief over the death of his child. Apply your rule. Death lies outside the province of the moral purpose. Out of the way with it. Did a consul meet you? Apply your rule. What sort of thing is a consulship? Outside the province of the moral purpose or inside? Outside. Away with it too. It does not meet the test. Throw it away. It does not concern you. If we had kept doing this and had exercised ourselves from dawn till dark with this principle in mind, by the gods, something would have been achieved. But as it is, we are caught gaping straightway at every external impression that comes along, and we wake up a little only during the lecture, if indeed we do so even then. After that is over, we go out, and if we see a man in grief, we say, it is all over with him. If we see a consul, we say, happy man. If we see an exile, poor fellow, or a poverty-stricken person, wretched man, he has nothing with which to get a bite to eat. These, then, are the vicious judgments which we ought to eradicate. This is the subject upon which we ought to concentrate our efforts. Why, what is weeping and sighing? A judgment. What is misfortune? A judgment. What are strife, disagreement, fault-finding, accusing, impiety, foolishness? They are all judgments, and that too, judgments about things that lie outside the province of moral purpose, assumed to be good or evil. Let a man but transfer his judgments to matters that lie within the province of the moral purpose, and I guarantee that he will be steadfast, whatever be the state of things about him. The soul is something like a bowl of water, and the external impression something like the ray of light that falls upon the water. Now, when the water is disturbed, it looks as though the ray of light is disturbed too, but it is not disturbed. And so, therefore, when a man has an attack of vertigo, it is not the arts and the virtues that are thrown into confusion, but the spirit in which they exist. And when this grows steady again, so do they too. Chapter 4. To the man who took sides in an undignified manner while in a theatre. The procurator of Epirus took the side of a comic actor in a somewhat undignified manner, and was reviled by the people for doing so. Thereupon he brought word to Epictetus that he had been reviled, and gave expression to his indignation at the men who had so reviled him. Why, what wrong were they doing? Said Epictetus. They too were taking sides, just as you yourself were. But when the other asked, is that the way then in which a man takes sides? He replied, yes, they saw you, their governor, the friend and procurator of Caesar, taking sides in this way, and weren't they likely to take sides themselves in the same way? Why, if people should not take sides in this way, you had better not do so yourself. But if they should, why are you angry if they imitated you? For whom have the people to imitate but you, their superior? Whom do they look to but you when they go to the theatres? See, says one of them, how the procurator of Caesar acts in the theatre. He shouts. Very well, I'll shout too. He jumps up and down. I'll jump up and down too. His clack of slaves sit in different parts of the house and shout, whereas I haven't any slaves. Very well, I'll shout as loud as I can to make up for all of them. You ought to know then that when you enter the theatre, you enter as a standard of behaviour and as an example to the rest, showing them how they ought to act in the theatre. Why then did they revile you? Because every man hates what stands in his way. They wanted so-and-so to get the crown, while you wanted the other man to get it. They were standing in your way and you in theirs. You turned out to be the stronger. They did what they could and reviled what was standing in their way. What then do you wish? That you should be able to do what you wish, but that they should not even say what they wish? And what is there surprising in all that? Don't the farmers revile Zeus when he stands in their way? Don't the sailors revile Zeus? Do men ever stop reviling Caesar? What then? Doesn't Zeus know about it? Isn't Caesar informed of what is said? What then does he do? He knows that if he punishes all who revile him, he will have no one left to rule over. What then? Ought you upon entering the theatre to say, "Come, let's see that Sophron gets the crown," and not rather, "Come, let me in this subject matter maintain my moral purpose in accord with nature. No one is dearer to me than myself. It is absurd, therefore, for me to let myself be hurt in order that another man may win a victory as a comic actor. Whom then do I wish to win the victory? The victor. And so the one whom I wish to win the victory will always win it. But I wish Sophron to get the crown. Stage as many contests as you will in your own house, and proclaim him victor in the Nemean, Pythian, Isthmian, and Olympic games. But out in public, do not arrogate yourself more than your due, and do not filch away a public privilege. Otherwise, you must put up with being reviled, because when you do the same things that the people do, you are putting yourself on their level. Chapter 5. To those who leave school because of illness. I am ill here, says one of the students, and want to go back home. What, were you free from illness at home? Do you not raise the question whether you are doing here any of the things that have a bearing upon your moral purpose, so that it shall be improved? For if you are not accomplishing anything, it was no use for you to have come in the first place. Go back and tend to your affairs at home, for if your governing principle cannot be brought into conformity with nature, no doubt your paltry piece of land can be made to conform with it. You will increase the amount of your small change, you will care for your father in his old age, you will walk up and down in the markets, you will hold office. A poor wretch yourself, you will do wretchedly whatever comes next. But if you understand yourself, namely that you are putting away certain bad judgments and taking on others in their place, and that you have transferred your status from what lies outside the province of the moral purpose to what lies inside the same, and if you ever say, "Alas, you are speaking not for your father's sake or for your brother's sake, but for my own sake," then why take account of illness any longer? Do you not know that disease and death needs must overtake us no matter what we are doing? They overtake the farmer at his work in the fields, the sailor on the sea. What do you wish to be doing when it overtakes you? For no matter what you do, you will have to be overtaken by death. If you have anything better to be doing when you are so overtaken, get to work on that. As for me, I would fain that death overtook me, occupied with nothing but my own moral purpose, trying to make it tranquil, unhampered, unconstrained, free. This is what I wish to be engaged in when death finds me, so that I may be able to say to God, "Have I in any respect transgressed thy commands? Have I in any respect misused the resources which thou gavest me, or used my senses to no purpose, or my preconceptions? Have I ever found any fault with thee? Have I blamed thy governance at all? I fell sick when it was thy will. So did other men, but I willingly. I became poor, it being thy will, but with joy. I have held no office because thou didst not will it, and I never set my heart upon office. Hast thou ever seen me for that reason greatly dejected? Have I not ever come before thee with a radiant countenance, ready for any injunctions or orders thou mightest give? And now it is thy will that I leave this festival. I go. I am full of gratitude to thee that thou hast deemed me worthy to take part in this festival with thee, and to see thy works, and to understand thy governance. Be this my thought, this my writing, this my reading, when death comes upon me. But my mother will not hold my head in her arms when I am ill. Very well, go back to your mother. You are just the sort of person that deserves to have his head held in somebody's arms when he is ill. But at home I used to have a nice bed to lie on. Go back to your bed. Without doubt you deserve to lie on such a fine bed even when you are well. Pray then, do not lose by staying here what you can do there. But what does Socrates say? As one man rejoices, remarks he, in improving his own farm, and another his own horse, so I rejoice day by day in following the course of my own improvement. In what respect? In little philosophic phrases? Man, hold your tongue. In little philosophic theories, then? What are you doing? Well, I don't see anything else that the philosophers spend their time on. Is it nothing in your eyes never to bring accusation against anyone, be it God or man, never to blame anyone, always to wear the same expression on one's face, whether one is coming out or going in? These are the things which Socrates knew, and yet he never said that he either knew or taught anything. But if someone called for little philosophic phrases or theories, he used to take them over to Protagoras or Hippias. It was just as though someone had come to him for fresh vegetables, and he would have taken them over to the market gardener. Who then among you makes this purpose of Socrates the purpose of his own life? Why, if you did, you would have been glad even to be ill, and to go hungry, and to die. If any one of you was ever in love with a pretty wench, he knows that what I say is true. Chapter 6. Some Scattered Sayings. When someone asked how it was that, despite the greater amount of work which was done nowadays in logic, there was more progress made in former times, Epictetus replied, "On what has labour been expended in our time, and in what was the progress greater in those days? For in that upon which labour has been expended in our time, progress also will be found in our time. The fact is that in our time labour has been expended upon the solution of syllogisms, and there is progress along that line. But in the early days, not only had labour been expended upon maintaining the governing principle in a state of accord with nature, but there was also progress along that line. Do not, therefore, substitute one thing for the other, and do not expect, when you devote labour to one thing, to be making progress in another. But see whether any one of us who is devoting himself to keeping in a state of conformity with nature, and spending his life so, fails to make progress, for you will find that there is none of whom that is true. The good man is invincible, naturally, for he enters no contest where he is not superior. If you want my property in the country, says he, take it. Take my servants, take my office, take my paltry body. But you will not make my desire fail to get what I will, nor my aversion fall into what I would avoid. This is the only contest into which the good man enters, one, namely, that is concerned with the things which belong in the province of the moral purpose. How then can he help but be invincible? When someone asked him what general perception was, he replied, just as a sense of hearing which distinguishes merely between sounds would be called general, but that which distinguishes between tones is no longer general but technical, so there are certain things which those men who are not altogether perverted see by virtue of their general faculties. Such a mental constitution is called general perception. It is not an easy thing to prevail upon soft young men. No, and you can't catch soft cheese on a fishhook either. But the gifted young men, even if you try to turn them away, take hold of reason all the more firmly. And so also Rufus, for the most part, tried to dissuade men, using such efforts to dissuade as a means of discriminating between those who were gifted and those who were not. For he used to say, just as a stone, even if you throw it upwards, will fall downwards to earth by virtue of its very constitution, so is also the gifted man. The more one beats him back, the more he inclines toward his natural object. Chapter 7. A conversation with the imperial bailiff of the free cities, who was an Epicurean. When the imperial bailiff, who was an Epicurean, came to visit him, Epictetus said, "It is proper for us laymen to make inquiry of you philosophers what the best thing in the world is, just as those who have come to a strange town make inquiry of the citizens and people who are familiar with the place, so that, having learned what it is, we may go in quest of it ourselves and behold it, as do strangers with the sights in the cities. Now, that three things belong to man, soul and body and things external, hardly anyone denies. All you have to do then is to answer the question, which is best? What are we going to tell men? The flesh. And was it for this that Maximus sailed all the way to Cassiope during the winter with his son, to see on his way?
Stronger than women. So when I see trans men going against women, it's never really a fair fight. And I think that it is something that is a thing that we should take seriously, because it's something that is serious. I think trans people in sports, I think they should have their own competitive leagues that they can participate in, because although they probably shouldn't wrestle, let's just say trans man wrestling a woman, that probably shouldn't be happening. But I think that they should have their own, way of participation in sports, because I don't think they should be denied of it. But I think that when we're talking about Okay, is it right to have a biological male who identifies as a female going against a female? No, I don't think it is right. But that's just my viewpoint on it.
Is Marshall a biological male?
Thanks for sharing it. Hey,
Yeah,
man, we got a queue here. Come on.
Yeah, there's no.
You got a cue.
There's a queue. Pardon me. There's a queue.
Christian, do you think when a female wrestler...
Adrian is next. Shut up, Scott. Adrian, go ahead.
Wait, no. I want to hear Scott's question. What's up, Scott?
When you come up on the mat, you guys shake hands or whatever, do you feel like you could say, hey, no matter what happens, you want to hang out after this?
Christian, can I step in and say something for a moment?
You know what? You may, and I don't know why I'm super long, but you know what? Go ahead, Rabbi.
Thank you.
That's what happens when you're
Adrian
Elvis.
is gonna hypnotize you. All language, all communications hypnosis, and there's powerful meditation at play, and we just have to be careful because Adrian has powerful hypnosis.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
That was a powerful hypnotic statement, Rabbi. I was just wondering, like, are Republicans supposed to be manly and Democrats supposed to be feminine? Because if that's true, Marshall's definitely a trans Republican.
Listen, Adrian, before we answer your question, Scott, to answer your question, no, I do not. You know, if I'm going to be fair, seems like an inappropriate question to go up to the mat to be like, you know, I mean, I know we're like, go hand-to-hand combat here, but like, you know, you're super cute. No, that's not what I do when I go up to the mat. It's
Not yet, Christian. Not
No,
yet.
it's crazy.
Hey, you could say to her, hey, look, after this, I could...
Is that what you would do, Scott?
That's what Scott would do because it
Oh,
is
sorry.
an excuse to touch a woman.
Christian, and did you know Scott was the president of his high school or something?
My senior class.
Oh God.
Does that surprise you or not at all?
No, it doesn't, because Scott's actually very cool person.
High achiever, yeah.
You know, and Scott, listen, I think the reason why
That's what it's like to have a Jewish mother, Scott.
the reason why you probably brought that up is because due to the fact that it's an excuse to touch a woman, you're able to, you know, make your first move, if you get what I'm saying, on the mat, firmly over gathering up the courage to go up to a woman and say, like, hey, you know, like, trying to go out.
Well, it's not a sexualized activity. So
I
mature people like you don't have to ask a question like that. You can
Exactly.
understand context.
I know.
Do you never hear grown men say, oh my God, I can't save somebody that has a cute dress on. I might get canceled. As if, Christian, that would happen. It's preposterous.
You know, no, but you know, on the topic of wrestling, Scott, no, I do not. Maybe that's something you can try. I mean, there's probably competitive wrestling league, co-ed wrestling leagues. I don't know, but you could try.
I'm actually going out with a woman tomorrow night, and she's a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. Which usually I don't date Christians. Usually I'm dealing with like atheists or Jews or. She's a believer.
Wow, Scott, that's super rare, considering that there's 3 billion Christians across the world. Wow, Scott, that's really
going out.
Hold on, Dave. Standing ovation for Scott, just real quick. I'm sorry, but
I agree.
Christian's coming in hot, dude. He's coming in hot.
I can tell you for sure there's only one person on this whole app and in my whole world who can say that. Hold on, and I'll do it. And now there's 2. You did it. You successfully did that, and I appreciate the correction. Thank you. My father's the other one.
you talking to me or Scott?
I'm talking to you, Christian, but I saw Scott pick up 2 women at once.
I feel honored.
She did see that, yeah.
You know, I feel so honored that I can be the second person to do so. I'm shocked Scott has made the list.
Christian, man, step in for a minute one more time.
You know what, Rabbi? I think you may.
Thank you, Christian. I just want to step in and clear my name. Alex accused me of being on mushrooms. It's been a long day. I finished an 8-hour shift as a renowned author and a scholar and philosopher. You know, I just get into.
If I may interrupt.
Yes.
I know he accused you of it, but is he right? Are you under the influence of mushrooms right now?
No.
Well, you heard it here, folks. I think it's great that you cleared the name, you know, but.
My name on this.
Why was the accusation leveled?
Why? Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
I quibble with the word accusation. I just claimed that he was on mushrooms. I didn't accuse him. It's not an accusation.
This isn't the island of Patmos, you know.
Neutral statement.
This isn't John from the Gospel, you know. We're not on Patmos here. We're on Clown House.
Also, Alex, let me just say something. When you claim that he is on mushrooms, a claim usually comes forth with evidence. I just want to make that clear. Just, you know, using my education for good use. When you make a claim, there's usually evidence that you have to use to back it up. And when you make an accusation, it's a claim that has no evidence to back it up. I just want
Christian, you're like the new rascal.
So then.
You like a younger, more vivacious rascal.
Is that supposed to be a compliment or is that supposed to be an insult?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't think it's
Pin yourself
yeah.
down. Pin yourself down. Compliment or not?
I like rascal. I'm just saying that rascal can be very aggressive. Very aggressive.
And yet, impish and cute.
I'm just saying that meditation, the art of being silent, listening, is truly sometimes more advantageous and more intellectual than hyperverbalizing all the time.
That is true, Adrian, and to back that up, it's been proven, and listen, I like to call it mindfulness, if that's okay with you, Adrian. It's been proven on multiple studies.
Listen closely, Marshall. I think you need to go do some meditation.
That's your second interruption, and I don't know what the consequence will be.
I think Adrian should be put on trial. No, I'm just joking. No, but you know.
I think Marshall should be put on trial for being a fake Republican.
Wait, Adrian, but listen, just hear me out here. I think. What was I saying, Jane? Remind me.
You were talking about meditation and mindfulness.
Because
You're
embodying the exact point. But
Yes,
constant interruption. You forgot you were talking about mindfulness. So now.
Yes, my apologies. Thank you, Jane. But it's been proven on so many statistics and studies that mindfulness reduces stress and anxiety levels, and on top of that, also makes you significantly more productive and brings so many more benefits. I have a lot of disagreements with whatever personality Adrian, identifies as sometimes, but I agree. I agree with you.
What are your disagreements with Adrian? Where do you have points of contention with him, Christian?
I don't know, to be honest.
We are in concordance.
Could you say, Adrian, that we are going to create an alliance?
I would just say that in the spirit of friendship and in the spirit of concord and in the spirit of a room about nothing, let's say yes. Let's be positive. Let's be optimistic.
Very nice. Well,
But that doesn't mean we should let Marshall slide. He's a fake Republican.
Marshall, do you want to defend yourself?
yeah, do you want to defend yourself, Marshall?
We want to go Mike Moon rule?
Fresh one.
Did you know Mike Moon went viral on Reddit yesterday because he posted a photo of himself with his Asian wife? And I looked at the photo and I was like, is that Mike Moon? And it went viral because the photo is called before, the Reddit thread is called before and after, and it was them when they were like early 20s or whatever, and now. And I was like, that is Mike Moon.
Adrian, you made Marshall leave.
Oh, I know.
Scott. Oh, yeah, Jane, go ahead. I'm sorry. I must honor Jane's time to speak.
No, I was just making a semi-nonverbal tisk.
Partial left. I see. My apologies.
He thinks Americans are arresting Americans and forcing Americans out of America. I find that to be very legalistically problematic.
Yeah. And that's a lot of people think with the deportations that Trump is running, they're removing citizens because of their ethnicity, race, etc. So, for example, I think the main issue that Trump is addressing is illegal immigrants, but more as cracking down on Mexicans illegally crossing the border. And I think that's something that he's mainly addressing. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people are making the claim that Trump is not only removing the illegal immigrants that are Mexican, but also legal citizens that are Mexican due to the fact that they are Mexican. Now, correct me. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, that claim is being made. It's too soon, right? Who's counting it? Which authority will we believe? This is a country in disarray. But, the anecdotal is, well, we've got for now.
Elon Musk, aka Adrian Dittman, had Nick Fuentes on his podcast this evening, and he asked Nick, "What is an American?" And he had difficulty answering that question because it is a difficult question to answer, but I don't think so. I have a piece of artwork on my body. I took my social security card and I had it tattooed on me. Perfectly. Exact same size. Everything is the same. Because I realized, what is the artwork that everybody seems to want? It seems to be the social security card. So, in response to what is an American, what is indisputably an American, if you got one of those social security cards, which everybody has to have, apparently, you're an American. If you're not an American, you don't have a social security card. If you are an American, you are now in the ledger. It's called a social security number. It's a ledger.
No, that's not. I disagree with that definition, Adrian. A social security number can happen for a legal migrant or resident. All that allows them to do is earn money and pay into the social security. That doesn't make them an American. That doesn't make them an American. That doesn't mean they can vote. They're not a citizen. They don't have American rights as if an American does. So I understand your point, like Social Security for sure, if you've got a number, unlocks opportunities, but that doesn't make you an American.
We're not American. We don't have to listen to you anymore.
That's... Well, Jane,
Isn't that a horrendous thing to
just broke the fourth wall.
Well, it's an all or nothing statement to say if you don't have a social security number, you're not an American. So I agree with you philosophically. It's a cognitive distortion disorder. However, everybody seems to want to get that social security number, but some people don't want it because that means, guess what? They got to pay taxes.
No, it's not. It's more than a cognitive distortion. It's a legal definition. To be an American means you're able to vote and you have certain rights as an American citizen. I am not an American. I have a green card. I've been living in the States and working here legally for the last 20 years. I'm not an American. There is a distinction that I think is more than a cognitive distortion.
So
you are a member, I'm sorry, Christian,
Sure,
listen to me, Alex, I don't know your life. I won't ascribe proud or any qualitative, but you're part of an American community if you've lived here for 20 years. So I'm not suggesting...
I would entirely agree with that characterization.
Okay, thanks.
I would agree. Those two things can be true too.
Should start having to have assholes like me, I was playing a role, tell you, well, we don't give a fuck what you say because you don't have a social security card. That's where we're...
But that's not the same as defining somebody as an American. Whether you decide to listen to somebody or not is apart and distinct from whether you're an American or not. Like you're pointing out is just simple human courtesy.
Question.
which
I'll
are
be
which I
damned if
appreciate
I'm
very
gonna
much.
let an Englishman lecture me what a fucking American is, mate. If you ain't got your fucking social security card, you are not a fucking American.
Wait, so I gotta
Uninfluenceable.
housekeeping issue. It's not an issue, it's more as a question, but does anyone here want to hear me have a 5-minute rant on immigration?
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. And maybe some people have heard me talk about this before. I know Scott is one of them. I know that Jane might be one of them. But for anyone who hasn't already, this is going to be young Elvis's point of view on immigration. And I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but I can't guarantee it.
May we put the replays on?
Go. I mean, I don't think we can, considering it's public room.
Okay. Go.
I think everyone can agree with this, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, but I think there is a large illegal immigration problem. I think everyone can agree. Now, I think the main question that everyone has on their minds is how do we, crack down on it, right? And I think this is something that Trump is trying to do or wants to do. And I agree with him on some points. I think we do need to crack down on illegal immigration. We don't know who is coming into our country. We don't know these people's intentions. We don't know what they want to do here. And I think a prime example is some of the things that have happened in history. The terrorist attacks of this year, stuff like that, I think has brought large concerns about illegal immigration and how, some of these people come into our country and stuff like that. I think we do need to crack down on it because illegal immigration is a problem. We don't know these people's intentions, whether they're criminals, good people, bad people, whatever they are. They still need to be documented. We need to know who they are, because if we don't, terrible, terrible things could happen. And I could list plenty, but I'll try to keep it to some. Some of the things that will happen if we do not crack down on illegal immigration is there are going to be attacks on our country from the inside. And this is something that we have seen in our country, and it's something that we're continuously going to see if it does not become solved. I think another thing that we also need to address is how unsecure our border is. We have a very unsecure border. It is not, the border is not fully made. It's not at all secure. There's holes in the border where illegal immigrants can get in. As someone who lives in California, I am a person who has seen this on the southern side or on the western side of the border, or the southern border. There is a very, very large hole that is unsupervised by immigrant police officers, and illegal immigrants are able to come through without any problems. And it is a large problem because, like I stated before, we don't know who's coming into our country. We don't know their intentions. We don't know what they want to do.
One more minute, I think, because I have a question on that.
Yeah, sure. I'll wrap it up. We need a more secure border, and we do need to crack down on illegal immigration, because if we don't have those two things, our country will be very problematic from the inside, as a nation.
Yeah, but aren't we having problems outside the nation as well?
You said what, Adrian?
I'm saying what we do on the outside of this country is impacting what's going on inside of the country. All of these immigrants are coming here because of regime change operations from the past 20 years.
Funded by us.
Jane, you had a question? Yeah, sure.
Clarity, please. Christian, what do you mean we don't know who's here? Do you mean illegal people who are living literally under the radar, and I'm using illegal, who literally have never gone on the books? Do you think that number of people is very significant in this whole? I really don't know. I have to look into it more. But what
Well, when I say that we don't know who these people are, what I mean is that when you come in the legal process in America, there is a process you have to do to be able to seek asylum in the U.S. Those people are documented inside of our system, and we know who they are and what they are doing here. When you come in illegally, all of those things are thrown out the window. We do not know who they are. We do not know what they're doing here. We do not know their intentions. That is what I mean. Illegal immigrants, whether coming through or staying here.
Until some of them, many, I have to look it up to see what the percentage, do go and seek pathways to legal citizenship.
But Christian, what are you gonna say when people call you racist?
Yeah. I'm not saying he's racist. I think it's interesting.
I'm just saying some people are gonna say what he's saying is racist.
Who said that here?
Somebody's thinking it.
Well, I don't think that my observations are racist, given the fact that I think everybody across the country can agree that there is an illegal immigration problem. We have unsecure borders, and they need to be cracked down on and fixed. I think everyone can agree with the observation that I'm making. Now, do I agree with every single thing that Trump's doing? Definitely not. But do I think that the idea of creating a more secure borders and cracking down on the illegal immigration problem is correct? Yes, I do. If that makes sense.
I know, but some people are still gonna claim that what you're saying is racist.
Well, hold on, let's write down. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Let me give you a data point, okay? This is study after study has proven this, right? This isn't controversial. Undocumented immigrants have a lower crime rate than native-born Americans. Now, this makes sense. You think about this. The ones that there are some people that are in gangs and things like that. That's statistically very, very insignificant number. Most people want to come here and make some money, maybe send some money back to their home country. Try to get ahead. If you want to do that, you want to stay here. And so you're not rolling stop signs, you're not speeding, you're not, let alone get involved in criminal enterprises because you don't want to get deported. So I don't worry about. Are there occasional stories